Okay, great. I just started the recording. This is Barbara Ciccarelli. I'm a relationship success coach, and this is part of my 6-month free workshop series. The title of the workshop series is Relationship Success, Staying Connected Without Losing Yourself. Let me say that again. Relationship Success, Staying Connected Without Losing Yourself. The theme of this month, February, is awareness. It's a great place to start. The workshop title, When a Relationship Feels Off, but You Can't Explain Why. And you can see on my title page, I also mentioned that this is out of Amsterdam. That's where I'm from. That's where my coaching practice is. And let's get started. Now, I do want to point out that this is a reflective workshop, not a space for quick fixes. I also want to mention that I promised interactive discussion in my marketing material, but there was a lot of material for this first session because it was the first one of the series. So it will be more of a talk straight through. And I'm hoping there's time afterwards, like 5 minutes or so for questions. I timed it in practice and it should be about 20 to 25 minutes. Like I said, that should leave some time at the end for questions. We already started the recording. Afterward, you can find the recording in my school community. That's SKOOL. It's in the classroom in the Vault, the module called Recordings Vault. You can also find their coffee hour recordings and the other workshop recordings that I've done in the past year. So grab your coffee or your green tea or maybe your chai and your snack or your lunch. And don't forget to turn off the audio. I think some of you have already done that. Nothing needs to be solved today. Today, we're just trying to become aware of your feelings. We're noticing your feelings and letting that be enough. So, have you ever felt uneasy in a relationship even though nothing bad had happened? And this is a rephrasing of the title for the workshop. Have you ever felt uneasy in a relationship even though nothing bad had happened? There was no conflict, just a quiet sense that something wasn't quite aligned. Today, we're working with one idea, and you can see it on the screen in the PowerPoint. Discomfort is information, not instruction. Let me elaborate a little bit on that. Discomfort is information like a signal to the feelings. It's not instruction for actions to do or carry out. Like I said, discomfort signals something. That's why we're so keen on learning about discomfort. It should excuse me, it signals we want to know more about the feelings you're having during this dynamic that we're discussing. Discomfort doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't ask for action, explanation, or confrontation. It simply signals something in you noticed before you could express it in words. Like I said, we're learning how to notice what your feelings are telling you without pushing them away or rushing to make sense of them. We're trying to get a body-mind balance here, and I'll get to that towards the end of the talk. Let me say this again. We're learning how to notice what your feelings are telling you. In a nutshell, or I should say later in the talk, we'll participate in a ritual that helps people get used to recognizing feelings, especially discomfort, as information rather than something to fix or override. Over time, as I said already, it supports mind-body balance by letting awareness come before action, explanation, or adaptation. So we're shooting for that mind-body balance by looking at our feelings. And the discomfort signals the feelings. So what is my role? I'm like I said, a relationship success coach. I teach people to treat discomfort as information about themselves, not as something to push past so they can stay connected while they grow. And that's the key thing. What is this all for? What is this all leading to? Staying connected while you grow in a relationship. Okay. Take a moment and think of a recent situation, relational or everyday, where you might have felt slightly uncomfortable, not distressed, just unsettled. What made that moment noticeable enough to stay with you afterward? If you remove the story about the other person or situation, what was the raw experience? And the reason you might ask, why are we removing the other person or situation? You might know that is because we can't change that other person. We can only change ourselves. So we want to look at the raw experience, a hesitation, a tightening, a pause, a drop in energy. You don't need to explain it because we're not getting there yet to explanations. You just want to notice what it was like. We're looking at the feelings. So with this in mind, and to make this talk more palatable or accessible, however you want to put it, I have a couple stories to tell. And stories, I think, are always helpful in communication. So I'm going to start with the dinner that was fine. And fine is in, not parentheses, but exclamation. No, fine. The dinner that was fine. Imagine you're having dinner with someone you care about. The conversation is polite, even warm. Nothing wrong is happening. But somewhere in the middle of the meal, something shifts. You notice you're listening more than speaking. You notice you're choosing your words more carefully. You feel yourself nodding a little too quickly. It's subtle. You don't feel upset. You're not angry. You're still smiling. But when you leave, you feel tired in a way you can't explain. Later that evening, your mind starts working. And you think to yourself, they didn't mean anything by it. I'm probably overthinking. It was a nice dinner, in fact. And all of this might be true. But the information wasn't in the story you told yourself afterward. The information was earlier, in the moment you stopped finishing your sentences, in the moment your body leaned back just a little, in the moment you became quieter without deciding to. Let me just change the slide. Nothing needed to be fixed in that moment, but something was noticed. Discomfort didn't say confront this. It said pay attention. And remember, the theme for the workshop this month is awareness. We're focusing on awareness, not fixing things, not confronting, not explaining. Let me go to another story. Hopefully this will explain also the dynamic I'm talking about. Um, the reach, it's called the reach, whether you're talking about food, phone, or a distraction. And this one isn't necessarily about relationship, but I'm going to provide it anyway. Imagine it's late afternoon. You're not exactly hungry. You've eaten recently, but you find yourself standing in the kitchen or opening the fridge or scrolling your phone for the third time in 10 minutes. If we slow this moment down, really slow it down, there's a tiny gap right before the reaching. In that gap, there's often something small but real, a restlessness, a flatness, a quiet sense of something's missing, or I need a shift. The reach isn't the problem. The snack isn't the issue. The phone isn't the issue. Those are responses. The information was already there in the discomfort that showed up just before the action. When discomfort is treated as instruction, we move quickly to make it disappear. When discomfort is treated as information, we get curious about what it's pointing to without needing to fix it. Today isn't about changing what you reach for. It's about noticing what was present before you reached. So how do these two stories work together to show what I'm trying to explain? The signal from the discomfort is early in the process. It's subtle. It's often explained away later. Action comes fast when awareness is skipped. And just as important is the idea that self-connection lives in the pause, not the conclusion. That might be something that is hard for some people to process, especially if you are the type that likes to conclude or fix things right away. We're looking at the pause, not the conclusion. And also, I want to mention here, let's see if it's here. No, not yet. Um, I want to mention a series of words. Discomfort leads to self-awareness, leads to self-connection. That is the idea for the talk. The body notices first with feelings or feeling the discomfort. That's why I keep talking about noticing the feelings. The mind usually jumps in to take over. Awareness lets them work together instead of against each other. I'm trying to teach people to listen to their feelings before translating them. And that's what keeps them connected to themselves while they stay in relationships, work, systems, and change. Now, I have some questions, which we're not going to go into a discussion mode right now. I want to wait till the end of the talk for the questions, but I'm going to mention the questions so you can ponder them, consider them, and you can also use these questions if you're listening to the watching the recording. You can also use them as a journal prompt. What usually happens inside you when discomfort appears? Are you tense? Do you pause? Do you hesitate? Or it could be something different than that. Can you think of that moment before you reach for a second helping or before you reach for your phone, even though you did just minutes earlier? Can you think of the moment before that? Because that's what we want to focus on, because that provides a signal. How quickly do you move from feeling something to doing something usually? Do you skip the pause is what we're looking for here. Do you think about the discomfort, the moment before the action, and what it might be signaling? At what point do you stop trusting the discomfort itself? Or when do you stop believing it signals something? So you jump over it. And finally, in terms of the questions, what feels harder, staying with discomfort or acting to remove it? That's a strong question. I mentioned in the very beginning that I would be talking about a ritual, and this ritual will go through the whole series over the 6 months. So I would like to start here. The purpose, just a sec. The purpose, it trains people to trust the hesitation or the pause, the moment before the action. It normalizes not knowing, but feeling. It normalizes feeling, not knowing. It builds self-authority without confrontation. And I have it just made me think I have a course, a free course called Reclaiming Your Self-Authority, if you're interested. So this builds self-authority without confrontation. Restore self-connection before analysis or action. And now I'm going to start the story, which is part of the ritual that goes over all 6 months. It'll be a point of continuity for the series. Imagine a moment when something shifts, not enough to stop you, not enough to name, but enough to be felt. You hesitate just slightly. Maybe you were about to speak. Maybe you were about to agree. Maybe you were about to send the message, take the next step, or let something go. The pause is brief, almost invisible, and then you move past it. You explain, you adjust, you comply, you distract, you become efficient. Nothing bad happens. But later, sometimes much later, you realize that pause was information, not instruction, not a warning, just a moment when something in you noticed before words arrived. Let's return to that moment, not to analyze it, just to notice. Bring to mind a recent almost moment. Nothing big, just a moment where you move past something quickly. Take one slow breath. Notice your body. Notice what helps you feel present again. Your feet, your breath, the chair, the room. You don't need to decide anything right now. You're just practicing staying with yourself. I'm going to pause for a few seconds so that we can feel this moment. So the question for this for this workshop is, what did that pause want me to notice before I moved on? If nothing comes up, that's okay. Awareness isn't forced. Awareness doesn't rush you. It meets you where you are and keeps you connected while you move. I really like this sentence idea. Awareness connects you while you move, because I do some work on identity and motion. Um, and I'll go into this more detail as the series continues. Quietly, this ritual does something most people were never taught how to do. It helps you recognize feelings as information about yourselves, not as problems, weaknesses, or signals to override. Most people learn to treat feelings in one of two ways: act on them immediately or talk themselves out of them. This ritual offers a third option: to notice a feeling without rushing to remove it or explain it. Discomfort is especially important here. Discomfort is often the first signal that something is misaligned, a pace is too fast, a role no longer fits, or the self is being reshaped without consent. I emphasize the last one: a self is being reshaped without consent. I'll go into that more in future workshops. By repeatedly pausing with discomfort just long enough to stay present, people learn that feelings are not instructions to act on. They are information about experiencing yourself in motion. Emphasis on in motion. Over time, this builds mind-body balance. I mentioned that earlier, and that's a very important thing for me, mind-body balance. The body is allowed to signal. The mind doesn't immediately override it, and the self stays connected while engaging with others, work, or systems. The body is allowed to signal, and you pick up on it. That's the whole idea. I'm not teaching you what to feel. I'm teaching you how to listen without panic or performance. All right, I hope that is what we're moving towards. This ritual, transfers well across relationships, power dynamics, AI and technology, which is coming up next Monday, my talk, identity change, and growth under pressure. The skill is an emotional expression. It's self-connection before self-adjustment. So in the very beginning of the talk, I gave the idea of the talk in a nutshell, in a small, concise statement. In other words, this ritual, the one I just went through, helps people get used to recognizing feelings, especially discomfort, as information rather than something to fix or override. Over time, it supports mind-body balance by letting awareness come before action, explanation, or adaptation. You could also say translation, because that was mentioned in the talk. Want to move now towards restoring self-connection, because I would say that is necessary to, self-connection is necessary to relationships, to connection, to others, in work, in love, in parenting, friendship. What if discomfort wasn't asking you to act, but asking you to pay attention? What changes if you treat discomfort as accurate but incomplete? And I say this incomplete because it requires self-awareness and self-connection. Discomfort requires self-awareness and self-connection. So by itself, it's incomplete. What if the information belongs to you first, not yet to the relationship or situation, which is why we were focusing on you in this talk? What happens when you don't override the moment inside and don't act on the discomfort and try to remove it? What happens when you acknowledge the discomfort in the process before the action? This is where awareness lives, not in solutions, but in self-connection. And in the closing, we still have some minutes left. Awareness is already movement, because what we've been talking about through this whole talk is a movement. Um, the discomfort, noticing the feelings, not and the signal, not acting right away, not explaining, not translating. Discomfort doesn't give instructions for action. It gives information about feelings. That's been my emphasis. You don't need clarity yet. Clarity is such a big word in coaching and in psychology. You don't need clarity yet. You don't need to decide anything. Most people learned early on that feelings should be managed quickly. Discomfort should be justified, and inner signals only count after they are explained or approved. So when discomfort shows up, people often stop themselves. This is silly. I shouldn't feel this. I need a better reason. Nothing outside is stopping them. They are stopping themselves. You only need permission from yourself to notice your feelings without pushing them aside. You need permission from yourself to notice your feelings. I want to repeat a couple statements to emphasize them for the talk because we're getting towards the end now. As a relationship success coach, I teach people to treat discomfort as information about themselves so they can stay connected while they grow. I hope you enjoyed the workshop and I hope I got my idea across. Here you see on the slides, discomfort, self-awareness, self-connection. That's the primary links of the ideas. And a final statement, discomfort as information about yourself, not something to push past, but something to stay connected while you grow. So that is the whole idea, your self-connection for connection. without losing yourself, of course, which is what we were talking about. I hope you enjoyed the workshop, and there is time, 5 minutes to discuss. But before we go to that, I want to mention a couple things. On Monday, the 16th, I have AI relating to AI with awareness, noticing power, pace, and inner signals. It's along the same idea, but now focusing on AI. And I might change the time to 12 o'clock to 12:30, so stay tuned, because that might be a better time. This is a 6-month series with one or more workshops each month. I'll upload the recordings, like I said, to my free school community. You're welcome to join the community if you haven't joined yet. And in the classroom, you'll find the recordings vault, VAULT. I'll also start a thread in my school community for discussion, and I will respond there. So feel free to join the community and join the thread. And thank you for coming. I will stay a little longer for questions. So if you could turn off your mute or turn on your audio, and I'll see if you have any questions or comments.